Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about mystical experiences. Should we talk about them? Should we share them? And how are we even remembering them in our own heads? So I feel like when people talk about mystical experiences, they get very polarized reactions from them. And when I read about mystical experiences, I get very polarized reactions about them. And maybe this is because what we want most is enlightenment, and what we want most is to embody and be our true selves. And so there's a kind of jealousy or a kind of temptation to feel deprived when you hear about someone else's experiences. I also think there's a kind of bullshit radar that goes off, and rightfully so, because when someone's accounting something that happened in their past, it's coming through their own filter, and then we're hearing it through our own filter. And so when there's been an experience of oneness, our filter takes the parts that were shocking to us, were insights, that we're always there, we're always part of the whole, we're always part of the one, but that we had never noticed before. And so some things that are insights, huge, life changing, like the last piece of the puzzle that changes everything for someone, that could be something that we already knew. And so that's why it's so important to come back to your own experience and come back to your own feeling to lead you to what's right. The other really interesting thing is that this is a time, and that's completely new. With YouTube, with the internet, we have access to information and documents that we've never had before. And it's almost become a kind of a DIY thing where people can just find what they resonate with. And while it's beautiful to have access to that, there's also a questions of sensitivity, how some information can be threatening to someone and maybe set them back on their path. And I think the best thing is to give people the skills to understand why they might react against things, and to always sort of take it back to them and to teach them to follow their own intuition and their own heart. Because before, it was like there was a sense of control where you needed a teacher, you needed a guru, you needed an organization that had decided what levels were, and what teachings were appropriate for what stage. And now it's completely our own intuition and complete freedom, which is a beautiful thing if we are willing to listen to that, to let go of that structure. And as I feel like Eckhart Tolle's analogy of the first flower and then the whole earth becoming, blooming out into like this springtime of life, this field of flowers, that's what's happening, and that we are all awakening quicker and quicker and quicker. And as this information is put out there, there will be more of us available to help people one-on-one to understand things and to realize things, and to be able to see someone from outside them and see what they are not embodying and not seeing, and help this happen faster and faster. But for now, mostly we are dependent on finding our own sources, finding what we resonate with, and sorting through all this information that we have. And so when somebody talks about certain mystical experiences, and the entire chakra system is a map of mystical experiences. So there's all kinds of maps and there's all kinds of reactions you can have. It always comes back to your own feeling and your own embodiment of them. And so what's an insight for you, and what physical sensations you feel can be completely different from somebody else. However, hearing their account of what happened to them can also open your mind and can open your heart to experience in this yourself, and it can inspire you to make the intention to have your own experience like that. And so my own mystical experiences to show, I feel like I could write a book, like a really in-depth novel about how it felt like everything kind of coming together. And everything is a story, and when we're relating it after the fact, it's a story, like I said, of how through our filter of the things that were surprising to us. And the purpose of a story is to share love, for these characters, love for this connection. And when we get too wrapped up in, oh, they had this experience, I haven't had this experience yet, I want to have this experience doesn't seem true to me, I think this sounds crazy. Well, it is crazy. It's a story. That's the entire point. It's crazy. And it's supposed to be crazy in love. Crazy, mind-blowing crazy. This is everything you ever wanted crazy. And opening your mind, opening your heart, everything. And so to end this video, I just want to go through some of the insights I had from Awakening. Hopefully they'll inspire you and don't feel at all like you are held from any of this or threatened by any of this. So I realized that my perception was limited and constricted, and I felt this complete opening. I felt this complete opening in my heart, this complete acceptance, parts of my body that I'd never loved, never accepted. I felt complete love for, complete self-love. I scrolled Facebook and saw people's faces, like I saw light in their eyes for the first time without all these like nitpicky judgments I realized was going through my head normally. I experienced being able to write, having insights that felt like there was nobody thinking them, there was no effort, just a complete flow of this. I experienced the realization that that laughing, that being energetic, that complete joy is just as much enlightenment, just as much a flow state as a meditative peace state. I experienced that impulses I had, that I had the ability to know like when to turn over a rock to find something I really wanted to see, that I could find that I had this kind of connection with this knowledge of everything that I ever wanted, that if I listened and got in tune with that everything I wanted would unfold for me and it would show me the way to it. I had the experience of completely losing time, of having, understanding that time was completely based on my perception. I had the feeling that I could just give everything away, that I didn't really possess everything. In fact, I gave away my most prized possessions. I left it for a place where I knew crows would take it. It was an antique ring and I gave it away. I had this feeling, this knowing that I couldn't die. And I had this contrasting experience where I was driving in slippery snow. And normally that was a time where I would have this, like, my hands would be tense on the steering wheel and I'd be really careful. And I was still cautious driving, but I knew, like, I just had this lightness in my heart and just knew that that was a complete fiction, that there was ever a separate self to die. And it was just saying this sounds so lackluster because the feeling cannot be communicated. I realized that the energy had nothing to do with eating and sleeping. All of those things kind of changed and were thrown out of whack, and that was fine. I had the experience of my attention and my awareness skipping out. of things that I didn't resonate with. So I knew exactly, if I was reading something, I knew exactly like what I was meant to read, and then the rest of it I would just scroll through, not see. If someone was saying something that didn't resonate with my higher self, it was like the words just went through and I couldn't even focus on them. I watched other people exclaim over this food that got old and was wasted. And I just had it was another contrasting experience where I just knew fully that nothing could ever be wasted, that was impossible, and that there were so many things I had felt bad and lacking about in the past. And I just knew that the reason I felt, and now with more understanding, the reason that I ever felt bad about those things was because that wasn't true. That was not truth at all. I also felt things connecting. I saw how things connected in my life, and I sort of received this ability to see connections. And of course, this depends on my own state at the time. But when I get in a certain flow or curiosity or good state, I start to see these really satisfying connections between things and understanding things that kind of I wondered about or came about in my life. And other times it's just sort of funny synchronicities. This also marks the time of having sensations between the eyes, and people have all kinds of talk about this, and the chakras all being a map. In the third eye, there's tons and tons of talk about the third eye, but there are sensations there that I experience. You may or may not experience, no big deal. So all of this is just to open your mind, to be interesting, to hopefully maybe give you ideas for intentions for things that you want to kind of, because this is all like our truest, highest, most satisfying life that we can live, that we want to embody. All these things are we're digging up, and an awakening is like kind of falling into that place and seeing how it contrasts with our life and being able to take it away with us and have the chance to embody that and to know how that feels and go in the direction of that feeling. And I think that's what's meant by liberation. And again, she will talk so much about chakras, they talk so much about the third eye, they talk so much about liberation. All it is truly is a feeling. It's feeling good. It's feeling your true connection and your true self. Nothing to get too caught up about, nothing to think too much about, just something to love. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the way I talk about spirituality and non-duality, please consider subscribing. And I love to hear from you guys in comments. Bye.